Hi everyone, I'll just let those numbers climb a little bit before we make a proper start. Great, so we've got a good number of people here now. So hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for this Q&A session. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan Winch. I am one of the recruitment admissions advisors for the Oxford MBA. I'm pleased to be joined today by James Tibbett and Joe Oldhouse from our Student Immigration and Visas team, and also Gisela Collins, who is one of our senior advisors. Just a quick reminder from me that this session is designed to be interactive, so please do keep your questions coming throughout the session, and please do use the Q&A box, which will be either at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on what device you're using. I think that's it from me, so I'll hand over to James, Joe and Gisela. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall I start then?
Yes, please.
Hello everybody, I'm Joe Oldhouse and I'm from the university's Visa and Immigration student team, and so we advise students from all departments of the university about their visa requirements, and also from the team is their head of student information, James Tibbett, so he's here as well. And just to introduce ourselves and let you know that we're here, so when you're making your student visa applications, which are not difficult to do, but if you do have queries or run into any issues, you can always get in touch with us, and we're there to help you out. But there's lots of information online, and I'll give you some introductory information now, and you will be getting information before it's time to apply for your visa anyway, so there'll be lots of information to help you, and it really is more straightforward than it used to be, and with a bit of preparation you needn't face any problems at all. So I hope you can all see the slides here, and so our first slide is a kind of checklist and timeline for making your visa application. So the first stage is that you need to fulfill your offer conditions for the business school for your MBA, and that's both academic and your financial conditions, because you can't apply for a visa in advance of having that unconditional offer. So that really is stage one as far as your visa application is concerned. Once you've got an unconditional offer, around about April next year, then Said Business School will start issuing the confirmations of acceptance for study, which we call CASs. So you need to check that and reply to Said Business School to say it's all okay, or alternatively to get any details amended if they're not quite correct. So just to explain, your CAS, your CAS, is an electronic document held jointly between the university and UK Visas and Immigration, and it's got data about you and your course. So when you get, as I said, when you get the draft CAS, check that everything on it is correct and matches with your passport and so on. Particularly if you've changed your passport since you applied, this is the time to get it updated. So once you've checked the draft, your CAS can be assigned. And as I said, this is not going to be before about April 2022. I know you'll be anxious to apply for your visas as quickly as possible, but that's about the time of year that you can expect the CAS. And once your CAS is assigned, you need to use the reference number from your CAS to put into your visa application. So the CAS is a key you need for your visa application, really. Okay, another thing you need to do along the way, you could be doing this earlier, actually earlier than getting your CAS if you wanted to, but not more than 6 months before your course starts. Check if you need a tuberculosis clearance certificate and get one if you do need one. So it has to be one of the listed clinics on UKVI website. And whether you need one depends on the country that you're living in immediately before you make your visa application, or the country that you've been living in very recently. So to find out the list of relevant countries, you can Google it on the UK. It's on the UKVI website. So if you Google UKVI tuberculosis, it'll come up with the list and you can check that. And as I said, remember it needs to be a government listed clinic, UK government listed clinic, and you get this done as early as possible, but as I said, not more than 6 months before you make your visa application, or 6 months before your course starts. Now, the next thing to do is check the financial requirements for the visa application. So you will have already proved financial matters for your offer to go unconditional, but you need to check what you need to do on the visa side as well. Now, a lot of you won't actually have to submit any financial evidence for your visa application, depending on your nationality, but you do need to make sure you could produce it if you were asked to during the visa application process, although it's really quite rare that they do spot checks in that way, but you do need to be prepared. Okay, so on our web pages, in our application guide, we go into this in quite a lot of detail, and who needs to provide evidence up front with their visa application and who would only need to provide it if they did a spot check and asked you for it. So the amount you need to show is you need to be able to show that you can cover all your course fees, or any that remain unpaid at the time you make your visa application, plus 9,207 towards your living expenses. So you don't have to provide the financial evidence up front if you come from what's called a differential evidence requirement country, and then you'll find those listed on our website and on the UKVI website. Okay, if you do have to provide evidence, it has to be in a particular format. We've got all the details of that on our website, and you can also find it on UKVI. So next stage is filling in the visa application form online. And we've got quite a detailed application guide, which goes through all the questions and gives you Oxford specific information that you need to put in, and explains the terminology of the questions and generally takes the mystery out of the process. So we've got a link on the last slide so you can access that. Okay, so you filled in your visa application. If you have any queries, look at our guide. If there's something you still can't understand, you're welcome to get in touch. So then when you're ready, submit and pay for your visa application, and you need to pay what's called an immigration health surcharge as well. Okay, so the visa fee will be £348 or equivalent in local currency in your country of the currency of the country where you're applying, and the immigration health surcharge will be £705. So I'll just explain what the immigration health surcharge is for. In the UK, we have the National Health Service, which is generally free on the point of use. And paying this immigration health surcharge means that you are eligible to use the National Health Service on the same basis as a UK resident. And this means that you won't need to get private health insurance for your time in the UK, because you'll be able to use the National Health Service. You can, if you want, get private insurance as well, but you would still have to pay the immigration health surcharge fee because it's compulsory. Okay, so you submitted and paid for your visa application online. And then if you're not an EU national, if you're not a European national, you'll probably need to book an attend an appointment to give your biometrics, which is fingerprints and a face scan. EU nationals aren't required to do this. Now, you will see lots of services available and different charges. As long as you're applying in good time for your visa, which I'd recommend about 6 weeks before you plan to be travelling to the UK at a minimum, you can use a standard service and you don't have to pay for all the add-ons or a priority service. Some of them don't actually increase. Some of the services offered don't increase it, don't make your application faster anyway. They're just sort of extras that you don't need. But as long as you apply in good time, you can use a standard service, and it should all be done in very good time for you to travel. Okay, so attend an appointment if you need to, and then if you need to submit any more documents and your passport, either this varies from country to country, either you will give them in at your appointment or you'll send them off to the visa application centre after your appointment. You might not need to submit anything except your passport, and European Union nationals don't usually even have to send in their passport. It's all done electronically. Okay, so how long are you going to wait then for your visa? The standard processing time, unless you've paid extra for a faster decision, is going to be 15 working days. So that's 3 weeks from the date you give your biometrics. They should notify you if it's going to be any longer than that, if they've decided your application is non-straightforward in any way, but which it shouldn't be. They are pretty straightforward applications. If your application is very delayed, more than the 3 weeks from your biometrics, you can get in touch with us and we can ask them to look into it for you. So you do need to wait for 3 weeks, but if it's much longer than that, get in touch with us and we'll get it investigated to find out why it's got stuck. Okay, and then the next thing is you get your decision, and you're usually notified by email of your decision. If you've had to send your passport in, you will get that passport sent back to you or notified that you can collect it. And in your passport, you will get a 90-day travel sticker. So this isn't your full student permission. This is just for you to get to the UK on. And you can travel to the UK anytime between the start and end date of that travel sticker. Don't arrive in the UK before it starts. Okay, can I move on the slide or do you need to move it on, Megan? Cheers. So after your visa is issued, so check the letter with the decision information. They have had a habit of sending out rather non-specific letters rather than your individual details. But if you do get details like start and end dates on the letter, check that they're correct. And check your 90-day travel vignette or sticker. So the start date of the travel sticker should be the date that you said 1 week earlier than the date you said you wanted to travel to the UK, but it can't start more than a month before your course start date. So you can only come to the UK after that travel sticker start date, and that start date can't be more than a month before your course start date. Don't travel before the start date of the sticker. And then the end date of your student permission, if it's in the letter, should be your course end date plus 4 months. Your visa should include an extra 4 months, and that's time for you to stay in the UK if you want to. Think about making applications for other visas if you want to, or look for work if you want to. So there's an intentional extra time built into your visa. It's not a mistake, and you don't have to leave the UK straight after the end of your course. Okay, so UKVI always say don't book your travel until you have your visa in place. Now, I don't know how realistic that is. Some of you might have to book your travel before you've got your visa, but in which case, if you do book your travel, do apply for your visa in very good time. Usually they come through in 3 weeks, as I say, but you can apply as soon as you get your CAS, and you would actually be allowed to apply up to 6 months before your course start date. But in fact, by the time you get your CAS, you'll be a bit nearer than that anyway, because you won't get your CASs before April probably. Okay, and the other thing you need to do is not strictly a visa requirement, but you need to check all the COVID arrangements. I really hope that everything has improved an awful lot by the time you're coming to the UK, and this kind of complication hopefully will just be a thing of the past. But if it's still ongoing, check all the rules, check the rules for leaving your own country, and check whether there's any measures in place for your arrival in the UK. These have changed frequently, but they have typically involved getting tests done before you travel, and then tests done after you arrive as well. And sometimes there are requirements to isolate in the UK, either in a government listed hotel or in private or college accommodation after you've got here. So I hope that most of that is over by the time you come, but do check if it's still ongoing, and we'll have information on the website as well. Okay, and then you need to travel to the UK. When you made your visa application, you will have stated a travel date in the application, but you're not held to that. You can, in fact, arrive in the UK or any time between the beginning date and the end date of that sticker in your passport. Now, if there are any EU nationals watching this Zoom, you won't have one of those stickers in your passport. So you just need to arrive after the start date as you've been notified in your letter about your visa. Okay. Okay, and then after you've got to the UK, if there are any quarantining requirements, you'll complete those first. But then you need to collect your biometric residence permit, which is kind of your full length visa, from St. Aldate's Post Office. Now, again, this is just non-European nationals. European nationals just have an electronic status, and there's no biometric residence permit to collect. Once you've got your BRP, check all the details, make sure your name's correct on it, your start and end date is correct on it, and that you've got work permission. So the work permission usually says 20 hours a week during term time, but that's actually a shortened version of you're restricted to 20 hours a week paid work during term time. Actually, you won't have time to do anything like that because the MBA is an intensive and fast-paced course, so you won't be wanting to do that much employment as well. But you are also allowed to work up to full-time during university vacations as well. That's your work permission. And then finally, some people will be required to register with the police. And again, that's nationality based, and we've got the details on our webpage about that. So when you can, within 10 days of arrival, go online and find out about police registration and register in with them. And then at some stage you do need to go down to the police station as well. But we've got lots of information about that. At the moment, it's been largely suspended during COVID, so it's not really happening. Okay, so I mentioned the work permission, 20 hours a week during term time and no hours restriction during vacation. But be careful if you've got, especially the summer vacation towards the end of your course, you need to make sure that that's not conflicting with any dissertation or placements or so on that you need to do. Work, you're allowed to be employed, but you're not allowed to go into, you're not allowed to be self-employed. And you're not allowed to engage in business. That's actually prohibited, even though you're on an MBA. So you can prepare for a business and you can plan about a business, but you're not actually allowed to conduct business in the UK on your student visa. Okay, any of you have got family members, you could apply for them to come to the UK with you. These family members can apply if you're married, or if you have a formal civil partnership, your partner can apply to come with you. Your unmarried partner could apply to come with you, but only if you have lived together for a full 2 years, and you can provide evidence of that. And your children under 18 can apply to come as your dependents as well. Okay, so that's all from me. I'm going to hand over now to James.
Okay, thanks very much, Jo. So my name's James Tibbett, and I work in the Student Immigration Office with Jo. And I also work on the compliance side. And our team issue the CAS numbers, so we can answer any queries you've got about that as well. So the next section was applying in the UK. So there are some conditions here if you want to apply for your visa within the UK. So the first example might be because you're already in the UK on another visa. So for example, you've got a job and you're here as a skilled worker, or you came with a spouse or partner and you're on a dependent visa. So the conditions are that you could apply in the UK for a student visa if there's not a gap of more than 28 days between the visa expiring and your course starting. The second example might be you're already in the UK and you're doing a bachelor's or master's here before your MBA, and you could also apply for your student visa in the UK. And you usually need to have completed your degree or be close to completing it. So, for example, if you were doing a master's in environmental science and you've got your results in June or July, you could then get your CAS number and apply for your MBA visa in the UK. If you're doing a master's in the UK and you're not getting your results till quite late, say August or September, you can get what's called a highly likely to complete letter from your current university, and that can help you apply a bit early in the summer. To enroll you on the course, you'd need a visa for Oxford, or you'd need evidence of a pending visa and be able to apply in the UK. So there is an option there and a workaround if you're doing a course in the UK at the moment and you're getting your results quite late from that one before you start the MBA. You can't apply for a student visa if you're in the UK without any permission, or if you're here on a visitor visa. So you need to be on a long-term other visa type to apply in the UK. Some other examples. So sometimes we have students on other visa types, which will allow them to study. Youth mobility is a sort of working holiday type visa, only for certain countries and for people under 30. You might come with a spouse or partner. You could come on a dependent visa. The advantage of the dependent visa is it lets you work full time, so there's a bit more flexibility there. Ancestry visa, if you had a grandparent born in the UK. And then there's also the British nationals, which is for nationals from Hong Kong, a new visa to live and settle in the UK. So we do have a few students on those other visa types that allow them to study as well. And then some examples of visas you can't study on. The graduate route is a post-study work visa, which is for after studies for you to find a job and start work. So if you had that visa, you'd have to switch back into a student visa. You can't study on that one. If your visa is sponsored by another institution, we couldn't let you start. So as I mentioned before, you need to have a visa for Oxford, or if you meet those conditions above, you need to have submitted a pending application and have to show that before you can be enrolled. We can't let you study on a visitor visa, or we can't let you study if you arrived without any visa at all. Okay. And then the next slide. And then we just wanted to talk finally about some post-study work options. So it's good to think about this in advance and think about a plan. And there are a couple of options here for when you finish your study. So the graduate route is a new route that opened in July this year, and that's been quite popular so far. and it's a 2-year visa, quite easy to apply for, and it's really flexible because you can do any type of work. You don't need a job offer, so you have got that flexibility to look for, find a job, and then move around as well. You can only apply for that when you've got your results. So for the MBA, your course end date would be end of September, and you'd get your results in November. As Joe mentioned before, you can work full-time once you've finished the course. So for example, you could work in October, November full-time, and then put your graduate route visa application in as soon as you've got your final results. There is some more information on our website about the timing for this as well. Another option would be if you've got a job offer to get a skilled worker, and that would be sponsored by your employer. The advantage of doing that is it would be cheaper for you because the employer might pay the costs, but the disadvantage is then you are tied to one employer, so it's a bit harder to move around. So it might depend on the type of job offer you've got and whether the employer wants to keep you there for so many years, or they might prefer to recruit you on the graduate route and give you a trial of a year. And then if they're happy, they might sponsor you for the skilled later. So it's going to be a little bit of personal preference for you, and then the preference of the employer as well. Some other options would be if you're setting up your own business. So there's a startup visa, and we run that with a careers service. And there's an interview and endorsement process. And every year we endorse about 30 or 40 students to set up their own business. And there's a 2-year visa there. And then the next step after that is once your business is established, you can then go on and apply for the innovator visa. So with all these options, Jo and her colleagues usually do a presentation once a term, either at the careers service and or at the business school as well. We'll go through these routes and all the options. And then there are lots of resources on the website, which we've given you to there below. So when you go onto the website, you'll see there's a before you arrive page, which talks all about the student visa. And then there's a during bit, which explains about what work you can do during studies, what happens if you suspend or withdraw. And then there's an after section, which talks about all these post-study work options. And then we're happy to receive your queries at Student Immigration. Our sort of peak period is during the summer. So around July, August, September time. It might take us a couple of days to reply, but if something's very urgent, we'll try to reply the same day. But do bear with us in the summer because it does get quite busy. And then we'll also do a lot of communication through the offer holder emails. So once you've got your offer in March, you'll get a regular monthly update from the university, and it will cover lots of things about visas, accommodation, finances, the student union, and lots of other sort of pre-arrival information. So there'll also be visa content in there as well. Okay. So that's it from Jo and I, and then we'll have a look at some of your questions in the Q&A, or we can also take them on the microphone as well. Okay. So we'll just have a look at the Q&A questions. Oh, I think we've just got one open at the moment.
I've tried to address the others in writing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Not one that I can do. Give that for Gisela and Megan.
Yeah, I can take that one later. I don't know whether it would be worth, I know you've answered quite a lot whilst James has been talking, but just to have a quick look at any of those and just perhaps also answer them live in case there's something you feel that would be quite useful for everybody to hear. Yeah,
shall we just, there's a few in there, Jo, about what documents they need to provide if the company sponsors them. Should we talk about that and official financial sponsorship?
Oh yes, I think I've missed that. Which question is that? Or
There were a couple of threads. So one was if their company's paying for their fees, do they still need to submit documents?
Okay, so it depends how your company is supporting you. So if they're paying your fees, ideally if they paid them up front, and then that would show on your CAS that your fees are paid, and then you wouldn't have to put in any evidence for the fees already paid because that's on your CAS. But if they're supporting you by saying that they are going to pay your fees in the future, but they haven't paid them that yet, that's acceptable if they're an international company. But if they're just based in your country, they can't do that. The only way they could support you is by paying fees up front. Okay, so that's a subtle difference. So if they're an international company, they could write a financial support letter for you, which you could put in with your visa application. If you are required to put in financial evidence, if you're not, because you're from one of the differential arrangement countries, then you just keep the letter in case it's asked for. Okay, yeah. So I don't know if I explained that very carefully. So do you?
So I think for that student, yeah, thanks, Joe. I think for that student, they'd just need to check whether their company meets the definition of being an international company. Yeah. The Home Office has a official financial sponsorship, they call it, or sponsor, and that's an overseas government, the UK government, an international company. Is there anything else?
International Scholarship Agency.
Oh, International Scholarship Agency, yeah. So the problems we run into is anybody sponsored by a charity, religious organisation, or not by an international company.
Yeah, and they can still support you in their studies, but they have to do that by paying your fees in advance and transferring your living expenses to you to put into your own bank account before you make your visa application. So, yeah.
So if, for example, you were sponsored by HSBC Bank, it would be relatively easy. If you're a low-risk national, you wouldn't need to submit the documents. If you weren't a low-risk national, then you'd need a sort of scholarship award letter from the bank explaining how they're covering your fees and living expenses. But if it wasn't an international company, then you would have to look at the circumstances around all that.
Okay, so someone asked, if I have already held a Tier 4 student visa previously, would I have to give my biometrics again? If you're applying in UK, because you're still here on a student visa, then it's quite likely that they will say you don't have to give biometrics again because they can reuse what they already have. Also, by the time you apply, it looks like you can usually going to be able to confirm your ID online anyway, and you won't have to do biometrics. So that's being rolled out in the UK from this month. But overseas applications, you still have to give biometrics for each visa application. So it kind of depends where you're applying.
A couple of questions about the graduate route. So we could just talk about the timing for that. So as we mentioned, your course end date will be September, end of September. So you'd get, because your course is 12 months or longer, you get 4 months added to that for your visa expiry date. So your visa expiry would be the end of January, where are we now? 24. So 4 months after your October 22 start date, September 22 start date to September 23, and then plus 4 months of visa expire in January. And then the graduate route, you need to have got your final results, which you'll get in November 23, and then you can apply for the graduate route. You need to make a visa application. The standard processing time is 8 weeks, but we have seen them process in a couple of weeks or so. As we mentioned, you have got that 4 month window at the end where you could work full time. But what you might find is the sooner you get that graduate route visa, that makes you a bit more attractive to employers, because you've got a sort of 2-year visa length then. If they're very keen to recruit you, they might start you on a sort of shorter contract and then extend it once you've got the visa done. So there are some points there to think about the timing as well of that. Was there anything else on the graduate route, Joe, do you think?
I can't see any other unanswered questions, but if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask us a question live, you will get lots of information about this further on, but do take the opportunity to ask us now live if you want to.
There was another question. Someone has said, if I'm not able to secure a job within 4 months after completing my course, can I still apply for the graduate route visa?
Yeah, that's a great thing about the graduate route visa. You don't need a job offer at all. So you can apply for it after you've finished your course. Your deadline for applying it is your visa expiry date. Once you've got that, then you're going to employers with your employment permission already in hand. So yeah, you can apply for the graduate route whether or not you've got a job offer. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Got a question asking, can you explain the ancestry visa a little further? What are the requirements to qualify for this beyond parent, grandparent being born in the UK?
Yeah, it's a grandparent born in the UK and you need to be a Commonwealth citizen, I think. Please don't ask me which countries are common.
I'm just having a look now. What you will find is if you do a Google search and just put ancestry visa and then look for the website, which is the gov.uk one, and that's the official UK government one. And the good thing about the government website is they're all in the same format. So Google ancestry visa, UK ancestry visa, click on the gov.uk one, and then it's a Commonwealth citizen, British overseas, British nationals overseas, and a grandparent born in the UK. And there's a section on there about the eligibility. And then the same thing, if you Googled about the graduate route as well, you'll find it's all in the same structure and format. So always look for the gov.uk site. Yeah,
or UKVI. So Google gov.uk or UKVI plus what you want to know from them. Ancestry, one thing you'll notice if you apply for that is it is a visa for people intending to work in the UK. It doesn't exclude you from doing the MBA, but you mustn't only put the MBA on your application form. You need to say something like, I intend to work in the UK and I will be doing an MBA at the beginning of my ancestry visa with a view to using this to enhance my work prospects in the UK. So you're allowed to do the MBA, but you also have to have the intention of working in the UK.
Okay, someone is asking, do we have to show 9,000 GB pound for each additional spouse or dependent child?
It's a bit less for dependents. It's still quite a lot of money, but I think I didn't look up the figures, but it's more like about 6,000 for each, not 9,000.
Yeah, I had a look this morning, Joe, because we were chatting about it, weren't we? And it's 600. So for yourself, they ask you to show £1,023 per month.
Up to a maximum
up to nine months. That's for the student. And then for the dependent, it's £680 for the living expenses, the maintenance per month, up to a maximum of 9 months. So that's 6,120. But as we mentioned, if you are a low risk national, you wouldn't have to show that document. You'd have to meet the criteria, but not submit the documents.
Oh, just a word about submitting documents. If you are a differential arrangement country, also known as low risk, as James says, don't be tempted to try to be helpful by putting in the documents anyway. It's much quicker not to put them in, because then they will just grant your visa because they don't have to wade through your documents.
Okay, I think there's just a couple more questions and then the rest look like they're all for me. Someone is asking, regarding the TB certificate, I come from a country that usually requires students to submit a TB certificate, but I have been resident in an EU country for the past 2 years. Would I still need to submit one?
It depends where you're living, not your nationality. So if you'd been in the EU country at least 6 months before you apply, then you definitely don't need a TB certificate if you're applying from that EU country.
Lovely. And then the last one was about the graduate route visa. Someone said they came in late and they're saying the graduate route visa, does this mean we need to enroll in another graduate program and work at the same time? I think they're just confused by the name.
Yeah, the name isn't that helpful, is it, James? Can you do that one?
Yeah, so the graduate route is a post-study work visa. So it's after you finish studies. So you don't need to enroll in another course. You don't need a job offer. And then it's a 2-year visa for you to look for and find work. But you can only apply after you've got your final results from the MBA. So it has been quite popular with students this year. And they get that 2-year visa, and it might take them a few months or it might take them a bit longer to find a job. And then because you don't need a job offer and there's no sponsorship, you can move around employers as well.
Okay, great. Thank you both very much. I think that looks like we have exhausted the questions for you regarding visas, and the rest look like they're all for me. So I shall rejoin. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you everyone for your questions. You've got the contact details and that useful website address. We do strongly recommend that you read all of the information there, especially the guide on how to fill out your visa application, because it is really helpful. Thank you. I'll sort of take over from here with the admissions type questions. So yes, if you do have any other sort of questions now going forward that's to do with your offer and sort of the admission side of things, I'm happy to answer those.
Thanks. So we'll sign off now if you're. Okay, thanks everybody.
Fantastic. Thanks, James. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for inviting us, and
Thanks.
back everyone.
Great. So someone has asked on the financial declaration form, it asks for a SITS ID. Could I please explain what that is? You can actually ignore that. That's something that is, we use the same financial declaration form that the wider university does. And for the undergraduate students, they need that ID on there, but we don't actually use it. So you can just ignore that little section at the top of the FD. You don't have to put your SITS ID in. Okay, we have had a few questions asking about scholarships for round 2. I can confirm that the scholarship decisions for round 2 have gone out. So successful candidates have been informed that they have won a scholarship. It doesn't mean that you won't necessarily get one if you haven't been awarded one in stage 2. You will get considered again at the end of the stage 3 admission. Obviously, it does get a bit more competitive as the stages go along. Somebody has asked, in terms of the scholarships, can we confirm whether all the scholarships have been made or scholarship offers have been made? No, we haven't awarded everything. There is still some funding available. As I say, there will be another round of scholarship decisions made at the end of the stage 3 application cycle. But all the decisions for stage 2 have been made and they have gone out. So someone has asked, could I please elaborate on the academic and financial conditions and when should we complete these 2? So basically, we don't have any academic conditions on your offer, but the 2 sort of conditions that we do have is to sort of pay your deposit, which secures your place on the programme, but then also to complete a financial declaration and submit that with all of the supporting documentation. So technically you don't have to submit that until the 1st of August if you don't want to. However, it's worth keeping in mind that some of the colleges like to know that there is a completed financial declaration in place before they offer college accommodation. So if it is the case that you're hoping to get accommodation through your college or you're on the college accommodation wait list, then it would probably make sense to get that financial declaration in with its supporting documentation so we can confirm it, and then you can sort of go ahead with that. Okay, so are there any UK bank loans available for non-UK nationals? That is a question I don't know the answer to. I would say possibly not. We do have a couple of loan options that we offer there. That will be some more information available for you on the portal. So Prodigy and Lendwise both sort of give loans to MBA students. In terms of bank loans, I would suspect that you're probably going to get a much better interest rate looking at your own country rather than sort of the UK specifically. But if there's something that you are sort of considering or you'd like more information on, perhaps if you could drop an email with a bit more detail, that's something we can look into. But as far as I'm aware, I suspect there probably aren't. I think that it's going to be a case that you would need to apply within your home country. Okay. Okay, will I have a better chance of getting into my preferred college if I fill the form in early? Are all forms evaluated together? No, so basically, yes, the sooner you pay your deposit and secure your place on the programme, that is the moment that we can send your file to college. And, you know, some of the colleges do just consider the first files that come in. So there is that possibility that you know, the first come, first serve, they will be the people who'll get that place. Having said that, we haven't sent any college files just yet because the university, especially the colleges that have a mix of undergraduate and graduate, are focusing on the undergraduate process at the moment, but we will be sending the files very shortly, but we will be doing them in the order that we receive them. So we have been keeping notice. And they will go in the order that the deposits and the forms were received. So it is fair in that respect. Okay, is it possible to apply for the Scholl Scholarship after receiving an offer? No, unfortunately not. For any of the scholarships that are offered by us or the university, then you do have to have applied for them at the time of application. So you would need to have completed those Scholl Scholarship essays at the time you submitted your application. And someone is asking, can we still apply for fresh scholarships now? I would say similar answer to that question. If you mean side business school scholarships or foundation scholarships, or university scholarships, as I say, you have to apply for them at the time of application. There may possibly be some external scholarships, depending, you know, what country you're applying from, that you may be able to look at. But in terms of ones offered by us in the university, then you do need to apply for them at the time of application. So just to confirm, college admittance is not affected by having completed the financial declaration. That is correct. So it's only college accommodation, and it's not even all of the college, it's just some of them do prefer to know that the financial situation is sort of confirmed before they'll offer you housing. But no, the only thing you need to do to be able to have your file sent to college is to have paid your deposit. Okay. So someone from round 2 just asking again about the scholarship results. Yes, the side foundation scholarship the ones that are managed by the business school, those decisions have gone out. If you're thinking about scholarships like some of the others like SCOL or Laidlaw, where the final decision won't be made until sort of March or April, what we can do there is just extend your deposit deadline until we know the outcome. So, usually you get this 28 days that you have to pay your deposit by. But if it is the case that you're waiting for one of those, we would wait to hear from them to see whether you've been shortlisted or not. If you haven't been shortlisted, then you will need to pay your deposit. But if you have been shortlisted, then we will wait to see the outcome of that scholarship decision. Gosh, good question. Someone asking about college-related scholarships. Usually you would apply to, they're fairly limited and some are quite specialist, depending which college it is. It would be a case probably of dropping an email. Ordinarily, I would say to Charlene, but she's still off at the moment. She should be back in the new year. So, to myself, but copy Charlene in at the moment, and just let us know which college it is that you're interested in and which scholarship it is that you're interested in, because usually then we would have a conversation with that college on your behalf, and just, make sure that you're eligible and you're going to be considered for that scholarship and send your file across, but also to let them know that you are interested in the scholarship in question. And then, yes, one question again about the Side Foundation scholarships for round 2. Yeah, as far as I know, all of those emails have now gone out, and the successful people have been informed that they've got a scholarship. Okay, don't have any other questions at the moment. We do still have a few more minutes before the next session starts. So if there is anything else that you would like to ask, happy to take any more questions. Otherwise, we can finish a little bit early and give you a little bit of time between this session and the next one.
I think that looks like that's probably all my questions for today.
Yeah, it does. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for all of your questions.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Giza, for answering the last ones. Thank you as well to Joe and James. I mean, they're no longer on the call, but if you have any other questions for them, their email address is on the screen at the moment. As James mentioned, they do get very busy around summertime, so if you can get your questions into them a little bit earlier if you can. There was a few questions around the recordings of this session. So this session was recorded. So if you missed any information or you want to go back and watch, then you can do, and it will be sent to you via email. We have the last of the virtual experience event sessions today at 4, so in a few minutes, and that's the speed networking. So hopefully you can all join us for that. So thank you again, Gisela, and thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks very much.